I'm Catherine Calloway. Susan Rook is off today.
I'm Lyndon Souls. Thank you for joining us. During the first half hour of Prime News, we're going to be focusing on health care reform. But first, a look at these stories. Los Angeles police have been talking to former pro football star O.J. Simpson today after the death of his ex-wife and a 26-year-old man early this morning. Simpson was released after L.A. police questioned him this afternoon. Simpson flew to L.A. from Chicago after being notified about the deaths. His lawyer says his client was questioned as a witness and is not considered a suspect.
He's shocked. I mean, he had nothing to do with this tragedy. He hasn't been accused of being involved in it, so we haven't had any discussion along that line at all. And no one's made those accusations, and I don't think anybody will make those accusations.
The bodies of 35-year-old Nicole Simpson and an unidentified male companion were found outside her West Los Angeles condominium after midnight. The man's identity is being withheld until his relatives are notified. Nicole Brown Simpson and O.J. Simpson were divorced 2 years ago. Los Angeles police are expected to be convening a press conference shortly, and as soon as that begins, we will take you to it live. Catherine?
Well, thousands of Alaskan fishermen, residents, and property owners could collect billions of dollars for damages caused by the worst oil spill in U.S. history. A federal jury in Anchorage today decided Exxon and Captain Joseph Hazelwood were reckless in the 1989 wreck of the oil tanker Valdez. The plaintiffs argued Hazelwood was drunk while he captained the ship, and Exxon knew he had a drinking problem. The Valdez ran aground in Prince William Sound, dumping almost 11 million gallons of crude oil. The jury has to decide how much Exxon and Hazelwood should pay for economic harm caused by the spill. The plaintiffs are seeking $15 billion in damages. Their lead lawyer says Exxon still exhibits corporate arrogance.
The primary tactic was we didn't do anything wrong. It was like a kid talking about his sibling. I didn't hit my sister, but if I did, I didn't hit her very hard, and if I hit her, she made me do it, and in any event, I didn't hurt her. I mean, it was just sort of a 1 month worth of excuses. So it was, Exxon was trying to avoid responsibility for what it did, and they couldn't.
Exxon says it already has spent enough to make up for the spill, $3 billion. Well, the Georgia Court of Appeals has thrown out a $105 million verdict against General Motors. Last year, a jury awarded the family of Shannon Mosley that amount after finding the GMC pickup the teenager was driving was prone to explode in a collision. Mosley was killed in a collision in 1989. Today, the court said lawyers for the family made improper mention of more than 100 other lawsuits involving GM trucks during the trial.
The White House announced that President and Mrs. Clinton were questioned under oath yesterday about Whitewater. White House counsel Lloyd Cutler says they met separately with independent counsel Robert Fisk. Fisk asked about the events surrounding the death of White House Deputy Counsel Vincent Foster. Police believe Foster committed suicide, but there are questions whether White House officials tried to interfere in the investigation. And Fisk is looking to see if there were improper contacts between White House staff and the Treasury Department concerning the Resolution Trust Corporation and the collapse of Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan in Little Rock. The White House calls the latest development in the North Korea nuclear crisis, quote, a very serious situation, end quote. The government-run news agency said today North Korea is quitting the International Atomic Energy Agency. The withdrawal is a reaction to the IAEA's suspension of technical aid. Now, the pullout will make it virtually impossible to check on North Korea's nuclear program, but the IAEA told CNN earlier today the North Korean government hasn't officially pulled out yet.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has not been informed neither from North Korea nor from the United States of America, which are the depositary of our statute.
Would it surprise you at all to hear this announcement from North Korea?
Yes, it would surprise me, as we have two inspectors there, and they have called us today and have said everything is normal in Yongbyon, at the place where they do inspection. That was in the afternoon of North Korea, and so we haven't heard over the last 3 days when inspectors reported regularly. We haven't heard anything which sounds irregular or abnormal.
Former President Jimmy Carter has arrived on the Korean Peninsula for talks with both governments. His is a private visit, but he has been briefed by the Clinton administration, and he possibly might mediate the Korean crisis. The U.S. is seeking economic sanctions against North Korea for its continued refusal to cooperate fully with nuclear inspections.
And coming up on Prime News, we'll take your calls, your concerns on how to pay for health care reform. That's next. Stay with us.
Branson, where even Mother Nature puts on one spectacular show. Get away to star-studded musical entertainment and acres of some of America's most original family theme parks. There's so much for your family to do and see, your greatest challenge may be deciding what to do first. Branson, where music is the universal language, and the American Express card a welcome traveling companion. Pack up your family, head for Branson. Daytime or nighttime, it's always showtime. American Express, don't leave home without it.
It's morning in Detroit, and Ford designers are working on a concept car. In Brazil, a class of engineers studies a new engine. In England, a Ford-powered car drives to victory. In Australia, a Ford returns from an endurance run. And back in America, the Lincoln Mark 8 gains yet another admirer. This is Ford, a world of 325,000 people in 30 countries, where the pursuit of quality never stops.
Who helps Hughes Aircraft's business reach new heights? Who helps Princess Cruises put more hands on deck? Who helps Grable Van Lines move more business? Sprint Business. We help improve business performance with advanced communications technology that brings real results. Who helps Pearl Vision see real results? Sprint Business. We help business do more business.
This is a bucket of water, and this is the new Goodyear Eagle AquaTread for performance cars. A wide performance tire with twin aqua channels to sweep water away for outstanding wet traction. New Eagle AquaTread, only from Goodyear.
Tonight on Sports Tonight, the second most popular athlete in Chicago has decided to call it quits. We'll have that story. And the NBA Finals. Why is it such a low-scoring affair? And a look ahead to the Stanley Cup Game 7. Join us tonight at 11.
It's going to be a busy hour, so let's move on to our next order of business this evening, healthcare. How is your grasp of this vitally important issue?
Do you know what employer mandates are or triggers? How about universal coverage? Well, joining us will be Michael Rausch of the National Federation of Small Business. We'll also be taking your phone calls about health care and small business. And the number is 404-221-1855. And of course, we will be giving that number quite a few times.
Let's start with a checkup on the status of health care reform. Two top lawmakers will be at the White House tomorrow to give President Clinton what's being called a reality check about what can pass and what won't. Here is CNN senior Washington correspondent Charles Beerbar.
Senate Finance Chairman Daniel Moynihan and the committee's ranking Republican Bob Packwood will tell President Clinton that his plan does not stand a chance in that key committee.
He cannot pass a health bill on a partisan basis, and the Republicans will not support it if we attempt to cram down the throats of employers a compulsory requirement that they cover their employees.
It's the employer mandate, central to the Clinton plan, that especially small businesses refuse to swallow, and virtually all Republicans and enough Democrats won't vote for.
If that's the case, then we're really in a fix. 100% of Americans have to have, in date, in the law, at some point, they have to have health coverage.
Many senators are looking at a mechanism called a trigger to activate full coverage by mandate at a later date if it cannot be achieved right away. But with no compromise as yet in hand, Finance Chairman Moynihan is starting with a bill similar to the president's.
And it was received with good cheer and a good humor, good spirit.
Not exactly.
It's a Burger King bill.
What do you mean by that?
It's a whopper. It's $190 billion in taxes and $37 billion in spending cuts.
In the House, 3 committees are plowing their way through the complex process, leaving the possibility of 5 different congressional versions of health care reform, none quite matching the president's original proposal. But some things are now apparent. Gone is the president's idea of insurance purchasing alliances, a new bureaucracy that frightened the public. Hanging on is the mandate which requires most employers to pay for 80% of the health insurance cost of their workers, but with substantial modifications to meet the objections of small businesses. Going up and up is the tobacco tax that's going to pay for much of the added cost. Ways and Means Chairman Sam Gibbons has undercut the president, asking only a 60-cent a pack increase in the tax. Clinton wants 75 cents more than the current 24 cents a pack, but Moynihan has topped the bidding with a total $2 a pack tax. Inside Congress, the horse trading is yet to come, and outside Congress, the lobbying is still heavy. Congressional sources, Republican and Democrat, suggest the Tuesday morning meeting at the White House is a reality check for President Clinton. The reality being that he cannot get the votes he needs for the kind of health care reform he wants. Charles Bierbarris, CNN, Washington.
Well, joining us from Washington to discuss the small business owners' concerns in health care reform is Michael Rausch.
He is the chief Senate lobbyist for a trade association that represents about 610,000 small businesses throughout the United States. Mr. Rausch, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How do you feel about the latest developments that we're hearing in Charles Bierbar's report, the fact that the employer mandate may turn out to be dead in the water?
Well, I think it's too early to pronounce it dead in the water right now. I think we have to wait until that reality check has been given to the president. And I'm going to be interested to see the reports of the meeting tomorrow, as everybody else is.
There's been a lot of talk about the next phase in this, if the employer mandate is going to be diluted somewhat through these triggers, which would extend the date that any mandates would be imposed. How does that sit with your association?
Well, we oppose the triggers that are being most often talked about right now. They're often called hard triggers, as opposed to some others that are being talked about called soft triggers. The hard triggers, they would trigger in at a certain date if universal coverage had not been achieved, an automatic going to an employer mandate. And we view that as simply a political accommodation to the fact that the employer mandate is not going anywhere as it was originally proposed, and a bad idea. A delayed employer mandate is still an employer mandate, is still a payroll tax, and so we will oppose any of those kinds of formulations, triggers, phase-ins, et cetera, on the same grounds that we oppose the mandate.
Tell us, in your view, the downside of employer mandates, whether they come now or 5 years from now, say, in a trigger.
I think that first and foremost is job loss. The employer mandate is a payroll tax, and payroll taxes are taxes that small employers, all employers, but small employers who live on cash flow primarily, have to pay from the first moment they open their door, and they have to pay whether they're profitable or not. It's going to cause them to have to cut back on wages or other benefits or jobs. And in fact, we think that the cutback in jobs is going to be substantial. The estimates vary from, I believe, the CBO, the Government Budget Office, from their estimate of somewhere in the neighborhood of 650,000 jobs in the first few years of the program to as many as 3 million jobs in some estimates. And then there are estimates all in between those estimates. But many people, and I think most people, concede that an employer mandate is, in effect, a tax on jobs and will kill jobs and small businesses as they try to start up when they're most vulnerable.
What about exemptions, say in Kennedy's proposal with fewer than 10 employees? Are you still opposed to that?
We are opposed to that. I mean, that doesn't say, that leaves the 11, 12, 13, 14 employee firm at risk. And it also puts into law a responsibility or an idea that we think is wrong-headed to begin with, and it just promises future attempts to lower the threshold or increase the proportion of tax or premiums that the employer is required to pay. And so we don't think that it should be part of health care reform at all.
All right, Michael Rausch, we will ask you to stand by. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we invite your telephone calls and your thoughts on the impact of the health care reform proposals on small businesses. The number to call, area code 404-221-1855. See you in a couple of minutes.
Why isn't New Balance listed on a stock exchange like Nike and Reebok? We prefer answering to runners, not stockholders. New Balance, a more intelligent approach to building shoes.
Hi, I'm Erica Seelinger.
Chris Columbia.
Lisa Mickelson.
Fred Edwards with MCI.
We're all here today, along with other MCI employees, to bring you the biggest announcement in our history.
Join and save 40% on every call to every MCI customer you choose.
40% to your friends. 40% to your family.
Double the original friends and family savings.
40% that goes on and on. Forever. Keep watching. It gets even better.
There's lots more good news about friends and family, too. The next generation of savings from MCI.
How fast do you think we could sell our home?
What if we find a great house before we sell ours?
These answers and more are here in Answers from ERA, your guide to buying and selling a home. Helpful tips, financial worksheets, it's all here. For your free copy, call 1-800-TO-ASK-ERA. When it comes to just the kind of help you'd expect from a friend, ERA wrote the book. ERA, first in service.
Tonight, North Korea quits the UN Atomic Energy Agency as South Korea prepares for possible war. Is the world looking down the barrel of a major crisis? On Larry King Live, tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
If you're going to have a mandate, just say we're going to have a mandate. Don't try to, gloss it up and cover it up and paint it up as something else. A mandate's a mandate. And when you come from a state where 90% of your employers, Kansas, have 10 or fewer employees, a mandate isn't very popular. And there are a lot of small states like Kansas.
Employer mandates and healthcare reform, our topic this hour. Our guest is the Chief Senate Lobbyist for the National Federation of Independent Business, Michael Rausch in Washington. And we're going to take some of your calls right now. Our first caller is from Washington. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Mike Pinto. My question is, why should small business foot the bill for health care when it's not a health care issue but a welfare issue? They're going to drive us out of business if they pass this Health Care Act.
Michael Rausch, your response?
Well, I don't want to get into the welfare debate at the moment. I think we're going to be deeply engaged in that in the next few days. But I agree, in essence, with the caller. I think that the health care reform debate and the employer mandate particularly is one that has many employers believing that they are being asked to foot the bill unfairly and at the expense of their viability as enterprises.
Mr. Rush, let me ask you quickly, what are the plans that are out there now look like in terms of percentage of payroll tax to pay for it?
They're all over the board at the moment. We're at that stage of the debate where everybody is seeking enough votes to pass something, frankly, and they're just all over the board. They range from 1% payroll tax for firms with 1 to 5 employees to outright exemptions for the very smallest firms, and then graduating up, increasing either a payroll tax or a proportion of premiums that the employer has to pay, and also phasing in subsidies for smaller firms and then phasing them out as the bigger you get. So they're really all over the board, and in the next 2 weeks, I think, the dust is going to settle a little bit, and we'll have a clearer idea of what the front runners really are.
All right, let's get back to the callers. New Jersey, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is John Christian Collinari. I'm from Jersey City. I'm self-employed, and I already buy my own medical coverage. My question is, under these new plans, will I have to pay for somebody else's coverage as well?
Go ahead, Mr. Rouse.
I don't know the answer to that question. If you're self-employed with employees that are currently not covered by the employer, well, then he certainly would have to make some kind of contribution under the mandated plans. There are a number of other plans, I need to point out, that are vying for support in the Congress that do not include a mandate and promise substantial and successful, we believe, reform of the healthcare system. So there are those proposals that do not have any mandate, and under them, the answer to the question asked by the gentleman would be no.
Well, I think we're also hearing that they would be getting greater deductibility. But let me ask you, because you were throwing out some estimates before, what would be the bottom line cost to some small businesses? There's one estimate that's out from the Employment Policies Institute, which says for small firms employing minimum wage workers, the cost will be no more than really 15 cents per hour, which is significantly lower than the 90 cents per hour increase in the minimum wage that was signed into law by President Bush in 1989.
Again, it's impossible to answer that kind of question because the programs are all over the board, and the richness of the benefit package, the extent of the subsidy that may or may not be offered, the extent of deductibility, all of those things are in flux, and all of those things are in play right now, and none of them have been settled upon. So there's just no answer to that question.
All right, let's take our next call from Alabama. Go ahead, please.
Yes, my name's Kevin from Mobile, Alabama. And my question is, I have real good health coverage where I work, and why doesn't the government just put a tax in place, charge everybody $10 a month more to help pay for people that don't have insurance?
To me?
Sure.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. It's arguable that if the society wants to have everybody covered in it, that probably the more equitable way, at least as far as the way our society has decided to pay for things, social goods, is through the progressive income tax. Now, I do not advocate, nor do our members advocate, increasing the income tax to pay for health care reform, but...
Then who should pay for it?
Well, I think that we are all going to end up paying for it. I think that many people, and particularly I think many of our members, believe that the primary responsibility for taking care of your health and your health care and your health insurance is an individual responsibility. So
you'd rather see individual mandates, in essence?
Well, that's one of the options that's on the table right now, as a matter of fact. And from our perspective, it's probably preferable to an employer mandate. It does not have the job effects, the job loss effects that an employer mandate has. But I would just say that from health, well, just from good old common sense, horse sense, I think, most people think that they should be responsible for their own health care, if possible, and to the extent that they're not able to, for reasons beyond their control, well, then we have in the society set up, these safety net kinds of programs to try to take care of them, and the question is making those efficient and reasonable and cost-effective.
All right, we're going to take a break right now. We will be back in a moment, and we're going to continue taking your phone calls on health care.
America West asks, what would it be like to get low fares and great service?
It's like a long-lost uncle left you $1 million tax-free.
Like meeting a gorgeous hunk and discovering he's your next-door neighbor.
Hey, stop dreaming and start flying. At America West, we not only have low fares, our frequent flyer program, Flight Fund, can get you free trips all over the world.
Hurry, here I come.
America West, low fares and the respect you deserve.
It's like having your cake and eating it, too.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
The Lincoln Mark 8's revolutionary suspension automatically lowers the car at high speeds for better handling and less wind resistance, which raises the bar for everyone else. The Lincoln Mark 8. It raises handling and performance to a whole new level.
Remember when Sprint's fiber optic network just meant a great phone call?
That was a pin?
Today you'll find that same Sprint clarity and high-speed data transmission, worldwide video conferencing, voice-activated calling.
That was a pin?
And wireless communications. Only one company lets you be there with all this technology right now. So in case you were wondering... Yes, that was a pin.
For those with a passion for life, there's Theragran multivitamins. Theragran has been recommended by doctors for over 30 years. So wherever you are in life, you can fully embrace it. Theragran M, for those with a passion for life.
We are taking your phone calls on health care reform, and joining us from Washington is Michael Roush with the NFIB. Arkansas, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Mr. Roush, do you have figures on what percentage of small businesses, like over 25 employees, now cover their employees with health insurance? What percentage, and how much those people would save by the implementation of this reform in health insurance that Mr. Clinton's offered? The other question I have is what percentage of large business that now supplies health insurance for their employees at no cost to the employee of the large employers?
Well, let's see if we have time to get through at least one of those questions.
Well, the first part, the numbers that we have indicate that about 42 to 45% of all businesses in the country provide health insurance to their employees right now. But most significantly, from my perspective, the employers that employ 4 or fewer, which is 60% of all the employers in this country, only 26% of them provide health insurance to their employees right now. And as far as large businesses, almost all large businesses, it's up in the high 90%, offer health insurance to their employees, but many of them are paying up to 20% of their payroll and insurance costs, and they're going to arguably save a whole lot of money with something like the Clinton program. In fact, it's one of the reasons we believe many of them are supporting it, because it's in effect a bailout for them for past bad negotiating abilities on their part.
Mr. Roush, we have less than a minute left. We talked a bit about the cost to small business from the employer mandates. What is your association's lobbying efforts costing small business? You are one of 10 lobbyists for the NFIB on Capitol Hill.
Right.
You've been heavily involved with the direct mail campaign and so on. What's the tally for all of this?
We have, as you noted at the beginning, about 610,000 members. Our members' average dues is about $120 a year. And what they pay for is lobbying. We're not a trade association. We are an advocacy organization for small business. So about $120 a year is the average dues that they pay us and have paid us for the last, I think, maybe 8 or 7 or 8 years.
Mr. Roush, I'm afraid I have to interrupt because we are out of time. Thank you very much for joining us. And we thank all of you who took time to call in with your questions.
Stay with us. We'll have our top stories. Plus, we'll have a live press conference from the LA Police Department on the death of O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Smith. Stay with us.
When it comes to your financial future, Fortis can help protect you and those you love. Fortis, a worldwide financial services company, $46 billion strong. A powerful choice for mutual funds, life and health insurance, employee benefits. A name you can trust around the world and right in your own backyard. Fortis, solid answers for a changing world.
AT&T, MCI, and Sprint are creating confusion in the minds of the public. The customer doesn't know what plan is the right plan. LCI is a very different long-distance phone company. We offer you a very simple, fair, and inexpensive service with technology that's second to none across the state, across the nation, or around the world. We're growing faster than any other company in the business, and they must be coming to us because they believe in us.
Calling all sports.
Tonight, CNN is calling all sports with wrestler and TV star Hulk Hogan, the special guest. Tonight, 1 a.m. Eastern on CNN.
You know, a lot of people think Pat, John, and I always disagree. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Sure, we argue issues, but that's healthy in any relationship.
In fact, off camera, we're really good friends.
Shut up, you fool. You want to tell the whole town? Fellas, how about another round?
Crossfire. Weeknights on CNN. Lively talk, healthy debate.
Happy anniversary to my bride of 32 years.
Get well soon. I hate gossiping alone.
Happy birthday, sis. You're at a great age, older than me. A special thanks to a client who makes business a pleasure.
I'm sorry. Am I still in the doghouse?
When you want to send your best wishes with flowers, call us and we'll make all the arrangements. 800 Flowers. Just call our name.
This is CNN.
Well, Los Angeles police have been talking to former pro football star O.J. Simpson today after the death of his ex-wife and a 26-year-old man early this morning. Simpson was released after L.A. police questioned him this afternoon. Simpson flew to L.A. from Chicago after being notified about the deaths. His lawyer says his client was questioned as a witness and is not considered a suspect.
He's shocked. I mean, he had nothing to do with this tragedy. He hasn't been accused of being involved in it. So we haven't had any discussion along that line at all. And no one's made those accusations. And I don't think anybody will make those accusations.
The bodies of 35-year-old Nicole Simpson and an unidentified male companion were found outside her West Los Angeles condominium after midnight. The man's identity is being withheld until his relatives are notified. Nicole Brown Simpson and O.J. Simpson were divorced 2 years ago. And we will bring you live coverage of the news conference from the LAPD when it begins. Lyndon?
The White House is decked out for tonight's formal state dinner, the first for the Clinton administration. The guests of honor, Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, will be treated to a dinner of American cuisine by the new White House chef. They'll also be serenaded by cellist Mstislav Rostropovich. More than 150 people have been invited to the dinner, which will be held under a tent in the Rose Garden.
A Palestinian follower of terrorist Abu Nadir